Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Cat's Corner. If you would be so kind, please just hit that subscribe button below, and we can get things started. The other guy you see on your screen right now is a former member of the Memphis Mafia, a World Series champion, and now the new bench coach of your St. Louis Cardinals, Daniel Descalso. How are you, Daniel?
I'm great, Jim. Thank you for having me on Cat's Corner. What an honor.
It is an honor. So, first, some housekeeping, some ground rules. This is not AJ Przinsky's podcast where you can cuss like you're a sailor on a 3-day pass. You understand? No cuss words on this operation.
I already made some promises to some certain people that wouldn't happen again, so you have nothing to worry about there. Somehow AJ just brings that out of his guests, so no worries there.
Yeah, I saw a little of it, and I was like, what a potty mouth. I went right to Bill DeWitt Jr. and said, you want this guy on your staff? Because as you know, Major League Baseball, there's no cursing.
Yeah. That's what my boss Oliver Marmol told me. No cursing in the dugout. But yeah, so you're the one that ratted me out to the people upstairs. Okay, I'll remember that next time you ask me to come on and do an interview.
Absolutely. So another thing, you're the new bench coach. I just want to get this out of the way. You're not going to pull a holiday on us, are you?
I am not. I promise you that. I know that was probably very hard for Matt to do. But yeah, it's not easy when you have family and a lot of other obligations to commit to a position like this. And I'm lucky that I have the support at home, and we're gonna figure out how that all shakes out with on the family front. But we are excited and we're all in.
So I understand that. And it wasn't a shot at Holiday. He's my boy. And the truth is, like, your kid is the number one draft pick in baseball. Is probably going to be a major leaguer this season. May win Rookie of the Year. The other kid is the best player in all of high school. So I think people understand why he didn't want to miss out. So how did this for you, the opportunity, how did it all come together?
Yeah, so I was working for the Diamondbacks this past season, and after the World Series was done, I was back home and got a call from the D-backs people saying that Mo had reached out to them to see if I was interested in talking about a position on the Major League staff. And so Ollie and Mo and I set up a Zoom. They kind of laid out what their idea was, that they wanted me to be the bench coach if that's something I was interested in. And so when they presented me with that opportunity to step into that seat next to Ollie in the dugout, it's just something that excited me right away and something that I was eager to jump into.
What's your relationship like with Ollie?
We go back to 2007 draft, same draft class, played in the New York Penn League in a little place called Batavia. Interesting spot, a long cry from Busch Stadium. But, we got to know each other there over the next couple of years in the minor leagues. And then obviously we took different paths to where we are today. But a guy that I've kept in touch with and followed his ascent up the coaching ranks, and somebody I've always pulled for and rooted for over the years. So it's a good fit, somebody that I respect as a baseball mind, and someone that I'm excited to work for.
So people don't know this, but along with the Arizona position in baseball operations, at Bally's, we were hoping to bring you on as an analyst. I know no one wants it out there, but I'm going to say that was another option that you had to weigh. But what did you take away from the job in Arizona, which was really kind of your first taste of being on the other side of things in baseball?
Yeah, I was very grateful for the opportunity that they gave me. We worked out something where I could set up the schedule the way that suited me best and my family best. And I spent some time with the big league team. I spent some time with our AAA team in Reno. Got to sit in on some draft meetings, some stuff with the deadline, some advanced scouting. So they let me kind of put my hands on a lot of different parts of the organization, and just kind of learn and observe and try to have some input and impact as well. So for me to have that year to kind of learn how it works from the other side is going to be really valuable for me going forward.
Also, dealing with personalities now, you did as a player, now as a bench coach, and you already have sort of a beef that's percolating with Lance Lynn. Lance told me that you told him you were going to make him run if he was out of shape when he reported to camp, and he called you a glorified schedule maker. I'd like you to respond to Lance Lynn.
Well, first of all, let me say that Lance is a delightful human being and a delightful person to be around, and I can't wait to spend the better part of 8 months with him. I didn't threaten to make him run. I know running is not his forte. I only threatened to put him as far away from the main field as possible if he gave me any attitude. I have heard from some other people that he calls the bench coach the backup manager, glorified schedule maker. So I'm excited to see Lance again and to work with him, and I'm glad he's a part of our roster. He is going to be a guy that keeps people accountable, a guy that wants things done a certain way. It brings a presence to the clubhouse that is I think needed for us.
So, what do you make of the team that, as it stands today, there's possible renovations possibly in the near future, but as it stands today, what do you think you have to work with here?
Well, obviously pitching was at the top of our list going into the offseason. Mo and his group have addressed that. Brought in 3 veteran starters that have had success in this league and know what it looks like to prepare, for their start every 5 days and take the ball and give us a quality start. And if you look at the roster, you've got with Nolan and Goldie anchoring the corners, two of my favorite teammates that I played with, two perennial all-stars and a nice group of position players. So I think last year was an anomaly, dealing with some injuries and some other stuff going on. But I think I like our roster, going forward. It should be an exciting season.
So you were an infielder, 10-year career, by the way, in the big leagues. Kudos to you. What do you think of Masyn Winn? Now, he didn't hit the ground running offensively, but I think most people who know anything about the game saw the tools that he brings to bear. What do you think the Cardinals have in Masyn Winn?
Yeah, I'm excited to see him in person and to watch him play. I'm only seen some stuff on video so far, but I know everyone that has spoken to me about him speaks very highly of his athleticism and the person that he is. So it was probably good for him to get up in September and kind of go through a little bit of struggles, get into the offseason and have a clear plan of what he needs to work on coming into spring training. And hopefully that he takes this offseason, takes advantage of the plans that are put in place for him and comes into spring training ready to win that shortstop job.
So we just found out that Yadi will be part of the organization as a special assistant. What do you think it'll be like to have Yadi around, and what do you think the intangibles are that he will bring?
Yadi is the best. You saw him up close and in person for a lot of years, as did I, and just his presence elevates everyone's performance around him. I think him being around is going to bring people to a higher standard. His preparation, what he played through physically, the work that he put in, and just the way that he would do anything it took to win a baseball game. And he's one of the most respected teammates of my career. Loved watching him play, loved sharing a clubhouse with him. So I'm very excited that he's going to be back in any capacity, and hopefully, he'll bring that Molina magic with him.
He's got fire too. Like, I can imagine as a player, not intimidating, but you don't want to half step it with Yadi around, right?
Well, and Yadi doesn't say a whole lot. He leads a lot by example, but when he does speak, you listen and you've seen Yadi when he snaps and he sees red, you don't want to stay out of his way. I think there was a situation my rookie year. He didn't appreciate the umpire's strike 3 call at home plate when he was hitting, and I was on deck and I saw like red in his eyes, and so I attempted to go out and separate him and the umpire, and I got thrown like a 12-year-old kid. He just like threw me off of him, and I was like, all right, I'm never doing that again because you don't want to get in his way when he's mad.
And we've seen him like want to go after the other manager when the other manager kind of questioned that Yadi was actually taking some strikes with the way he was handling the strike zone and moving pitches around. Yachty will not back down to anybody.
Guess who was in the middle of that one too? That was against the Diamondbacks when I was playing there, and there I found myself again between the manager of the Diamondbacks and Yachty, and I was like, how do I keep finding myself trying to separate Yachty from another human? This is not a good spot you want to be in.
So what are you telling both sides? You know Yachty and you know Torey. What are you saying?
I told Torey later that I just didn't want him to hit you because I don't think that's not a good matchup for you. So I just tried to separate the two of them. But yeah, there's not really much you can say. Just try to make sure that cooler heads can prevail.
So I wanted to ask you about the Memphis Mafia boys, and like I know that people still use the term Memphis Mafia for all the pipeline players, but you guys were the Memphis Mafia back in the day, very key part of that 2011 World Championship team. But like, I look at like all the guys you were buddies. John Jay's now with Skip. Skip's a manager. What do you think it is about those Memphis Mafia boys that you're a bench coach now, not only still around, but you're rising to the top?
So I will let you know there was a secret meeting of the Memphis Mafia in Nashville at the winter meetings the other day. We were missing one key member, but John Jay, Alan Craig, and myself had breakfast the other morning in Nashville at the winter meetings, and we have a group text with three of us plus David Freese, and we communicate regularly. I think just coming through the system together and having each other to not only hold ourselves accountable, but just to be there for each other. And when times were tough and, hey man, like maybe try this, or I see this for you, and just having those guys and then get to the big leagues and you can kind of do the same thing is pretty special. You don't always see that and be able to play with guys that you respect and you enjoy being around, and guys that push you. And then you get to the big leagues and have success. So it's just a special group. We even ran into Tony La Russa down there. We got a few minutes with him. So it was a fun little Memphis Mafia reunion.
Torty's still doing okay? Torty Craig? Did you get an update on him?
You know what? I keep forgetting to ask. But as far as I know, Alan Craig is a simple man. His tortoise is a simple tortoise. He doesn't need much. I think he's doing very well. But I will ask next time.
You mentioned Tony La Russa. What did you take away from playing for Tony that you still think about or may possibly utilize yourself as a coach?
I think the number one thing that comes to mind is preparation. Tony was never out prepared by the opposing manager. In fact, sometimes you saw other managers, tighten up or try to do things differently because Tony was in the opposing dugout. But, I remember him, after a game, he'd be, if you saw him somewhere, he'd have a napkin writing notes or a piece of paper jotting stuff down for tomorrow. And you could always tell he was at least an inning, if not two innings ahead of what was happening in the game. And so I think for me, taking this next step and being in the dugout, that's something that I want to be known for is just being prepared and not letting anything surprise me.
True story or false story? I'm pretty sure Skip told me this, but when you guys were down to your final out, one of the two times you guys were down to your final strike, late in that game 6, Tony La Russa was telling people in the dugout, all right, everyone get ready and tip your cap to the fans. True or false?
If Skip said it, it must be true. I did not hear anything. I was a young rookie. I was trying not to screw anything up, so I was hyper focused. I've watched that game a couple times, and there's stuff that comes up and like, man, I wish I would have been a little bit more in the moment. I could have remembered that, or I could have enjoyed that. But
had you heard that story though from Skip that Tony actually had thought they had lost that game?
I have not heard that story, but I trust Skip to the end of the earth, and I believe what Skip says.
So, are you still close with those guys? Do you keep in touch with the Mafia boys?
Oh, on a daily or on a weekly, if not daily basis. I just saw David Freese at a golf event at Pebble Beach. Jay and I and our wives were in Europe together this off season. If I'm in San Diego, I always make sure to see Craig, and then we talk. We talk via text. Jay loves a good FaceTime, group FaceTime, which is kind of tough with the 4 different cameras, but it's a lot of fun with that group. We do a good job of staying in contact and just keeping up with each other's lives.
My timing might be off on this, but and baseball's a business. We all get that, right? But I remember the day that Alan Craig got traded. You guys were in San Diego, one of the saddest scenes I've ever seen. And guys were bawling because the trade had been made public, I think, on ESPN before anyone from the team. I guess one of the agents leaked it. And I don't think Mo had time to tell anyone involved. And they saw it on ESPN just in the clubhouse there in San Diego. Were you around for that?
That was a tough day. I think we were in the food room there in San Diego, and it came across that we had traded for John Lackey, and it said the return for Lackey was an outfielder and a pitcher. We're like, all right, sweet. We're getting another starter. We're trading a couple, a minor league outfielder, minor league pitcher. Let's get this thing going. And Alan was actually at my table. And then a couple minutes later, it says, Alan Craig and Joe Kelly going back to Boston. And I think Craig dropped his breakfast burrito out of his hand. And I think, a couple minutes later, Matheny came in and, gave him the, hey, Alan, come here. So definitely not the way that you want a trade to be, the players to find out about a trade. Sometimes there's not a whole lot you can do with leaks. But, that was as somber of a day besides being eliminated from a season that I've ever been around in a clubhouse.
That was rough. I mean, just seeing it. So back to 2011 and that game 6. Like some guys said that they had a feeling that Freese was going to do something. So again, you guys were down to your final strike 2 times in that game. Freese, Berkman came up. You had a big hit. Jay had a big hit. But Freese was the man in that game. Did you ever sense that it might be over, or did you know that Freese had something up his sleeve?
I mean, you got Neftali Feliz on the mound, one of the better closers in the league at that point. Honestly, it didn't look good for us, and you try to stay focused and locked in, and like, hey, we just need a couple runners, we got a chance. But those guys are closers for a reason. So we tied up the first time, like, all right, here we go, and then all of a sudden we go down again. Honestly, once Josh Hamilton hit the 2-run homer after that, I was like, can we really come back twice? And then fortunately for us, Neftali was not back on the mound the next inning, and nothing against Darren Oliver, but not as tough of a matchup as Neftali was. So we had to get a couple guys on. John and I got on, and then obviously the rest is history. But when you're down late and it gets down to those final outs, final strikes, you try to stay locked in and stay in it. But at some point when you have the closer out there, it's like, all right, we're going to need something special here.
So the folks, and I would imagine it's different from team to team, but for folks that aren't aware, they see the bench coach in the dugout. What are the responsibilities that you're taking on? What will you do as bench coach?
I mean, Ollie and I are going to be, we're going to be right there together, game planning the whole game. Obviously, before the game, with Dusty and the pitching staff, and figure out how we want to line it up for that night. And then, my job is just going to be to, just to make sure we've got all scenarios covered. Like I said, be prepared, try to be a couple innings ahead, a couple moves ahead, and just lay it all out there for Ollie. And, he's the manager. He's going to have the final say. But I think, we're going to have a lot of good baseball conversations and a lot of good discussions about how to attack certain situations.
Now, you've always been very respectful and kind in our interactions, especially as a player. Just a polite guy, good upbringing, I assume. Ollie Marmol is disrespectful to me and treats me poorly. And I'm wondering, are you going to be normal, Daniel, to me, or are you going to pick up what Ollie's doing in terms of the way you handle me?
Well, Jim, you know me. I've got nothing but love for you in here. So you don't have to worry about me being mean to you or throwing you under the bus. We're like this, you and me.
I appreciate that. And I think you're dripping with sincerity. All right, last thing. So, I mean, you came up with the Cardinals. Your career started here. You won a World Series championship. Now you're back as a coach. Have you thought about opening day and being back in a Cardinal uniform in front of a packed house with the the Red Jacket guys there, the Clydesdales. Have you thought about what that feeling is going to be like for you?
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I didn't. I've been back a couple times for the 2011 reunion and just the reception we got from the fans, and we rode the trucks around the pregame ceremony, and that was really fun, and just being around that weekend and hearing everyone just talk about 2011. It's going to be fun to be in uniform in the dugout again. Maybe I think at home we open up with the Marlins, so it'll be Schumacher and Jay and I are already trying to scheme bringing up the lineup cards on the same day. So that would be something that's special. But yeah, just to have an opportunity to have an impact on bringing another World Series back to St. Louis and getting guys like Nolan and Goldie a World Series ring, like that's what I'm here for.
That's awesome. I look forward to that, seeing you back with the club in the Cardinal uniform. And Daniel, I hope you are nice to me going forward, but I do appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be with us.
I mean, let's be honest. You were one of the deciding factors of if I took this job or not. I wanted to make sure that they were keeping you around and that you had Cat's Corner set up. So once I was assured of all of those things, I told Mo, "Hey, deal's done. We've got it."
I didn't want to be the one to say it, so thank you for saying it. That's going to do it for this edition of Cat's Corner. On the way out, if you'd be so kind, hit the subscribe button, please.